Hey everybody, it's Monica with Fit Eats Coach, and today I'm back with Workout B from the Get Strong Challenge. This workout has some of my favorite strength moves divided up into 2 circuits, and you will do each of those circuits twice. There are no intervals in this workout like there were in Workout A, but you can add them in, and I will share exactly how to do that at the midpoint of this workout, which is about 22 minutes. Once you get the hang of these exercises though, with whatever equipment that you have available to you, you may be able to get through this entire workout, which is 4 circuits in 20 minutes. All right, let's get started. All right, our first exercise is a single arm, single leg row. I'm using a sand-filled ball for this, but you can absolutely use a dumbbell, a kettlebell, and even a cable if you don't have weights. One of the things that I really love about this exercise is that it works your entire posterior chain, so your whole backside is working as well as your core. If you need to put your fingertips or your hand on a surface to kind of help you stabilize, that's totally fine. Also, you can place your hand on your thigh, and you can even lower the leg all the way to the floor and just maybe put your toe on the floor until you get stronger to be able to hold that leg in place. It does take a lot of work to hold the leg in place. All right, we're moving on to a tactical lunge. Notice how I'm transferring the ball underneath my leg without folding forward from the waist. So I'm pretty upright. That means I have to lunge quite deep in order to get that ball underneath. This can be challenging for a lot of people, so if it is, maybe just transfer the weight over the thigh initially to start. As you start to get stronger and your range of movement improves, then you can try to do that threading movement underneath. Later in the workout, I'll show how to do some of these exercises from this circuit with dumbbells instead of with these sand-filled balls. All right, moving on to our modified side plank with a press. This is very kettlebell based movement, and it can be quite challenging because it does require some glute strength, core stability, and definitely some really good shoulder positioning. So key thing here is place your hand along that hip line and make sure that your bottom leg is completely straight and you're putting your weight into the side of the foot. So a lot of times people try and use the back leg, the bent leg, to do all the movement, and this is really not going to help you do this exercise correctly. In fact, it will just alter your form so much that you will struggle with it. So really think about what's going on with that bottom leg all the way up through your glutes, your core, and into the back muscles. This is a full body exercise that's really amazing for building total body strength. And if you struggle with the press portion of this, then take that out until you get stronger. Next up, we have a counter rotation with a leg extension and a bit of pullover. So this is quite a few things that are happening. Main thing is to really use your deep abdominals to control your legs. Your legs, and obviously the weight that you're holding, are the weight that is training your core to be stronger. The point of this exercise is to use your deep abdominals to anchor your entire torso into the ground. Using that weight at the hands is actually going to help you, but if you still find that your back is lifting off of the ground, maybe you can hold that weight at your forehead or place it behind you on the ground to help you out a little bit more. And also you can aim your legs a little bit higher. All right, moving on to a single leg bridge. I have my leg crossed over and I'm using this kicking motion to kind of slow down the exercise and really focus on getting my hips up as high as I can. And I'm also using this kind of overhead chop movement, which makes the exercise a little bit more challenging. So if that's something that you're not ready for, you can leave that ball on the floor and just hold it in that position. Just make sure that you're really focusing on raising the hips up. Notice how I slowed it down even more on this side because I feel like this side needs more attention than my other side. And you can vary the leg position. If you wanted to, you could just leave the leg up in the air the entire time. Just make sure that you're pushing through that heel and again, really focusing on getting those hips up as high as you can and taking your time with it, not rushing through it. Okay, finally, the last exercise of the circuit, then you get to take a break and repeat all of this one more time. This is a cross body chop with leg scissors. One of my favorite things about this exercise is that it feels like a bicycle, but you're really slowing it down so you get to feel every inch of your core working. Now, if you have any kind of neck situation, then you can place your tongue on the roof of your mouth and press up there for support. And if that's not enough, then get rid of the ball and just do this with one hand crossing over as you hold your head with your opposite hand. All right, we are moving on to round 2. Notice how that break was virtually non-existent, and that's pretty much what you have to get used to doing, is taking very short breaks of 10-15 seconds. We're getting right into this single arm row. As you saw before, my leg now is not off the ground. It could be, but because I've decided to use a 25-pound dumbbell for this, I'm placing my foot on the ground for more stability. I'm still targeting all those back muscles and my core and glutes as well, but it's a little bit safer to have your foot on the ground if you're using heavier weight. So I just wanted to point that out. There are many ways to do this single arm row, with your leg positions being different, with different gear, and also with different angles of your back. Right, we're moving on to the tactical lunge. This time I'm doing it with a 10-pound weight. Actually, that's a 15-pound dumbbell. And I'm moving in a circle only to show different views of this exercise. You don't have to do that, but it is kind of fun once you master this exercise to add some rotation to it. That's something that's a little bit more advanced, and you absolutely do not have to do that in order for this exercise to be really effective. Notice how still with a dumbbell that is not hanging as low as a sand bell or a kettlebell, I am not folding forward from the waist to thread that weight under. And again, if you can't, manage that, then just transfer the weight over the thigh until you get strong enough and have a better range with your lunges. Okay, we're moving on to our modified side plank, and I'm using a 8-pound dumbbell. So I have a wide range of dumbbells that I use for different exercises, but if you only had a set of 8s and 10s, then just stick with what you have. You don't have to transition through all these different dumbbells for these exercises. And like I said before, this particular move you can actually do with no weight. I would recommend that if you're more of a intermediate to beginner, that you use no weight and just master the body weight version of this before you start adding weight. Notice how much time I'm taking to align myself though, because it's so important for shoulder stability and really to engage the entire back, the core, and the glutes properly for this specific move. All right, we are moving on to our single leg bridge, and notice how I'm now in a totally different area of my mats. This has been a challenge to try and figure out how to film in this new space. So if you see things that are different from circuit to circuit, just know that I'm experimenting with this whole new gym area. Definitely some of my black mats are not coming back into this gym, and so I have to figure out ways to position my body for filming. When I'm doing my own personal workouts, it's not that hard because it doesn't matter where I am. If I'm, off camera, as they say, then it isn't gonna matter. But when I'm filming, it does matter where I lay down. I want you to be able to see the exercises. Anyways, just thought I'd share that because I'm sure you're wondering why I'm all over the place in the gym. Now, one thing I wanted to do with this particular exercise was to experiment with that 15-pound sandbag that you see right behind my head. But I thought maybe that's a little bit too complex for this workout video, and we'll just kind of add other supplemental workouts to this workout plan, and all that is going to be in the playlist that is linked to all the workouts that belong to this plan, which is all in the PDF, which you can download. All the links to everything are down in the description box. All right, moving on to our counter rotation with leg extension pullover. One tip I have for this exercise is your core can feel really strong one day and then not so strong the next day. And that has to do with, activities that you do that may fatigue you. Maybe the exercises that you're doing on a particular day feel a little bit more challenging, and so your core is working harder to stabilize. So what you do in that case is aim your legs higher, as I'm doing here. I was pretty tired from a week of teaching and other things that I had going on, so my core wasn't feeling super strong on this exercise the day that I was filming, and so I wasn't going to try to hover my legs right above the ground and then hurt my back. That's not worth it. So just work, in those ranges that feel right for you that day. That can change from day to day and week to week. All right, we are on to our last exercise of the circuit, and I mixed it up a little bit more this time. So I'm doing a single arm press with a leg lower, and one of the legs is staying bent. It's like frozen in place right there. And for some of my clients, that is incredibly challenging. So sometimes I have to actually stand there and kind of place my fingertips on the ball of their foot so that they are not allowing that leg to lower down. This is definitely a safer way to work your core if you have a really weak core. And obviously, because you're pressing that weight, you're working on your obliques, chest, and shoulder. I could definitely do this with a 10-pound weight, even a 15-pound weight. And as you add weight, you will feel your core engage a whole lot more. So choose a weight that feels right for you. You don't have to go super heavy. And also definitely don't go super light though. Don't use a 5. Don't use anything less than a 7. You want to feel like you're working to hold that weight up as the leg is going up and down, to hold the other leg in place. A lot of things are going on here. So if you maybe prefer to do the other exercise that was in the first round, go back to that instead. All right, take a little break, and then we're moving on to circuit 2. Okay, we're starting with a very wide stance squat, ball curl, and adding a heel raise to this. The important thing about this exercise is to really place your feet as wide as you can. Point the toes to the corners of the room, so you don't have to be in a full-on like ballerina squat for this. You're just trying to create that length through the inner thighs, and you're really working on your entire lower body as well as your arms and your calves, which don't often get worked in just basic strength workouts with weights. Okay, now we're moving on to a reverse lunge with a halo. And as you'll see in round 2 of this, all of this can be done with a dumbbell. But one thing that you can do to modify this exercise if you can't balance very well in a lunge is you can keep that foot behind you and make it a stationary lunge where you're just focusing on the one side. You can also do walking lunges, front lunges, and you can even do a step up version of this. So pick a version of the lunge pattern that works. The lunge pattern is so important for strengthening the lower body and really improving your balance, but I know that it can be tricky for certain people. So find a way that you can improve your lunge pattern if you're not able to do this particular version of it. We are moving on to a slightly advanced version of the kneeling bird dog, which is alternating arm leg extension. We're going to elevate the knees off the ground, and then we're going to switch alternating arms and legs, keeping the back really flat. So the key here is to not allow your butt to just start piking up, not allow your feet to start kind of scooting way back. You want to stay in this little tabletop position, and you can stop at any point to readjust your feet, to readjust your arms. This is amazing for core strength, but it also works your entire back. Right, we are continuing with bridge and ball adduction. So abduction is when you take away, that means that you're going out. Adduction is when you're pressing in. So we're working on those inner thighs and connecting that into the pelvic floor, deep abdominals. Notice how my toes are off the ground, so I'm pushing through the heels to really engage the entire posterior chain. This is a great exercise, but if you don't have a soft ball like this, you can use a yoga block, you can use a Pilates ring, you can even use a short foam roller for this. Are continuing with weighted leg lowers, and your arm position can be straight up towards the ceiling or bent arms with fingertips right by the sides of your head or fingertips on the floor. What you don't want to do though is hang on to something for the sake of using weight. So try not to do that. Instead, just do the exercise without the weight until you're strong enough to add a weight. We are finishing up this circuit with single leg deadlifts and various levers. So levers are the length of your arms and legs, and notice how there's various positions that you can do. You can do bent leg, bent arm. You can do bent leg, straight arm. You can do bent arm, straight leg. It really depends on, how strong your core is, how good you are in this hip hinge pattern. This is a great way to challenge yourself if you want to work a little bit harder without having to add more weight. So more weight is just one way to get stronger. Another way is to play around with different elements of your movement patterns, like the length of your limbs, the tempo that you're doing the work, and so many other things that I'm going to mention in that PDF download that I talked about earlier. All right, after you're done with this, you're going to take a very quick break, and then you're going to continue with round 2. If you are wanting to get some intervals in, as I mentioned at the very start, you can do them in between these two circuits, or you can do them at the very end. All right, we are on to our last circuit. We're doing the exact same exercises as before, but notice how I'm using 2 dumbbells now. We're gonna use a dumbbell or 2 dumbbells for everything in this circuit. These are 10s, I believe, and these feel pretty good for curls. So you're curling that weight, holding it at the bottom to get that heel raise in. Like I said before, make sure that your legs are nice and wide. I had somebody in class the other day who was just refusing to spread the feet wider, and they were just putting so much pressure on their knees, and I thought, why are they doing this? I don't know if it's a modesty thing, but you kind of need to get over that. If you want to wear a long shirt and that makes you feel comfortable, then go ahead and do that. Do whatever you need to do to be able to do your workouts. All right, we're back to our reverse lunge with a halo. Make sure that you're really reaching that weight all the way back so that you get that big opening through those shoulders. If you have tight shoulders and shoulder issues, a lot of women that I train do, this is going to help to unlock all that stuff so that you start healing that shoulder and it gets a better range. And this is a pretty safe way to do that. All right, we're going to continue with single leg deadlift arm levers. I changed the order of this a little bit. Instead of doing it last, we're doing it right in the middle. And that's totally fine. If you want to switch up the order of your exercises, I've mentioned before, you can do whatever you want. This is your workout. Notice how I'm grabbing the weight with both hands and it's kind of throwing off my balance a little bit. If that happens to you, just move on. Try not to focus on that too much. And if you're losing your balance a whole lot, then maybe place your hand on your thigh, use a chair. Try not to use too much support, but you want to play around with your levers. You can still use a little bit of support from, an object that's right next to you, a pole, the wall, anything that helps you to get a little bit stronger in that pattern. Now, one thing that you need to keep in mind when doing this is trying not to shrug your shoulders as you're pulling that weight up and down. You want it to really hang, and you want your hamstrings and your glutes and core doing most of the work of this exercise. All right, we are doing a modified Renegade row. So this is very similar to the version we did in the previous circuit. I'm sticking to same side leg, same side arm, and I'm just gonna focus on that one side, get that side done, and then take a 2-second break and switch over to the other side. Usually a 10 to 15 pound weight is really great for this, but you can also do this with 8 pounds. If you can't do 8 pounds, then just go back to the body weight version and do that version instead. This is a really fun exercise. Again, keep that tabletop position nice and tight. All right, next up we have a bridge with a weight at the upper thighs. You could also use a sandbag on here, and if the weight doesn't feel good resting up there, you can fold up a mat or a towel or blanket, put that on top of your legs, and then pile some weights on top. I've shown this technique before. It's really a great way to really strengthen that hip thruster pattern. And it's also really fun to challenge yourself with a little bit of extra weight on that. And then finally, we have our scissors, holding that weight right above the head. It's not on the ground, it's not above my forehead, it's just kind of hanging back. You're gonna feel this in your entire core, so deep abdominals, obliques, and definitely those 6-pack abs that people really love to feel when they're working out. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this. I will be back with our cool down. Thanks for watching.